Batman is Gotham City. Batman is to be feared, and Batman fears nothing. Almost. Recently, Batman faced off against another entity of Gotham City, the Court of the Owls. The Court of the Owls is also a staple of Gotham, yet nobody knows that they exist, not even Batman. This secret society moves the powers of Gotham, and they secretly run things from behind the scenes. But most recently, Batman has finally come across them. And they trapped him in a labyrinth, drove him to the brink of insanity, and they almost killed him. He did manage to escape the Court of the Owls, though, and now he's recovering back at Wayne Manor while he tries to decide how he's going to handle the court. But the court? They aren't waiting for Batman to come back and destroy them. They're taking back the city tonight! The Talons break into Wayne Manor and they begin to attack Bruce in his very home. But it's not just one of the Talons this time, they've awakened all of the Talons. Bruce begins to fight off multiple Talons at the same time, and he calls to Alfred, who's down in the Batcave, to give him their position so he can be better prepared. But Alfred, he has his own problems because the Talons are also breaking into the Batcave. But an interesting thing to note is that the Talons weren't even aware that there was a Batcave down here. Bruce begins to fight off as many as he can, and he rushes downstairs into the Batcave so that he can help Alfred, and the two men run into the Bat Armory so they can shut the doors and lock themselves inside. While Bruce tries to figure out what's going on, he hands a microdrive that he acquired from one of the Talons during their fight to Alfred. Alfred begins to dig into the microdrive, and he discovers that the Talons aren't there for Batman. They're here to kill Bruce Wayne, and they're also going to be going around all of Gotham to kill anybody in power and anybody who has money. All of the heads of Gotham is their target. Batman begins to come up with a plan so that he can take down the army of Talons that are fighting his home. First, he puts on his ultimate Batman armor, and then he lowers the temperature of the cave in hopes of freezing the Talons in place. Alfred then puts a word out to everyone in the Bat family. He tells them, the Talons are going after anybody with power and money, and there's a total of over 40 targets that we need to protect tonight. Good luck to all of you. The entire Bat family takes some of the names and they set off to protect the people, while Batman is still in the supersuit, attacking the ones that invaded his very home. But there's just too many Talons, and with the temperature dropping, he begins to flatline. His vitals are failing. But there's one thing that the Court of the Owls has forgotten. This is the Batcave, and as the temperature of the cave drops, the bats come out of the deepest parts of the cave in full force. Batman takes this opportunity to take out the remaining Talons, and they all slip into a hyper-frozen state. Except for one of them that is escaping. And not only that, but Bruce needs to get into the city so that he can fend off an army of Talons who are trying to kill everyone in Gotham. Well, this seems like a simple fix that doesn't even take a detective to fix. He'll just create some owl roadkill and get to work saving Gotham. He goes over the list and the allies of the Bat are already protecting some of these people, but sadly, most have already been killed. There are only 2 people that have not been killed and are not protected. Batman needs to save them. Jeremiah Arkham and Lincoln March. It's time for Batman to head to Arkham Asylum. But while Batman is busy heading off to save Arkham Asylum from the Talons and itself, the rest of the Bat family is busy. The Birds of Prey are busy fighting off against the first of the Talons, who are trying to kill Street Vermin, as he puts it. And they manage to take him out. Robin heads off a Talon who is trying to kill an army general, and he decapitates him. Batwing mutilates a Talon as it tries to kill Lucius Fox. Nightwing stabs a Talon in the heart, and then he proceeds to fight off the revived William Cobb, who mocks him by calling Nightwing nothing more than a waste of a descendant, as Cobb was his great-grandfather. Batgirl fights against Mary, a female Talon who's trying to change the bat signal into an owl signal. And during all of this, Red Hood and the Outlaws fight against the Talons who kidnapped Mr. Freeze. You see, Red Hood wants to fight Mr. Freeze, so it's time to have a heart-to-heart with these Talons. Catwoman, Spark, and the Penguin all end up teaming up, and they fight against their own Talon towards the end of the night. But while all of this is going on, Batman manages to get to Arkham Asylum and rescue Jeremiah Arkham. He then drops him off with Nightwing, who agrees to take him off his hands so that Batman can head off to save Lincoln March. So, Batman then headed off to save Lincoln March, the politician that warned Bruce back in the Court of the Owls before all of this began, and he's one of Bruce's oldest friends from his early days in politics. But Batman was too late, and March was stabbed in the chest. As he was dying, he handed a note to Batman and said, "Bring this to Bruce." And the note states, "Don't give up on this city. This city can be saved. And Batman takes that to heart. He can still save Gotham. The first thing he does is drive a scare tactic into Mrs. Powers, one of the high-ranking officials who's on the Court of the Owls. He wants to know where Joseph is. Where is the leader of the Court of Owls? She dials her husband, and Batman manages to track the signal down to the Harbor House, the house that he as a child thought that the Owls were in. But he was wrong. They weren't here. And if they are now, and he was right as a child, does this mean that the Owls actually killed his parents? No time to think about that now as he kicks in the door, prepared for a mighty fight with the entire court. Except, they're all dead. All of them. Even their supposed leader, Joseph. They all seem to have drank poison with their wine. What an anticlimactic ending. Bruce heads home and he sits in his chair, thinking about all of this. Why did the court kill themselves? It makes no sense. And why were they at the Harbor House? Does this mean that they were using this place when Bruce was a child? Does this mean that they were involved in his parents' murder? Does this mean that they were there when Bruce was a child? You see, when Bruce was a child, he was trying to find meaning, a whole reason to why his parents were killed. And he decided to investigate the theory of the Court of Owls. He thought that the Court of Owls could have caused his parents' death. He thought that they could have hired an assassin to take out his parents. So he tracked them down to the Harbor House. But he was wrong. There was nobody at the Harbor House. But like I said earlier, if they're using it now, were they using it when he was a child? So many questions with no answers. But wait, Batman just figured it all out. He figured out the last remaining person who has all of the answers. He quickly heads to the morgue to verify if his hunch was correct, and he just finds a note. Follow me down the rabbit hole. Batman quickly heads to the only sinkhole in Gotham, where he meets up with Lincoln March. Lincoln explains that he was working for the Court of Owls, and he saw their truth. He saw what they really were that day that they attacked Bruce and Lincoln. He also saw that Bruce is Batman that day, and he put it all together. But he wants Bruce to explain. How did Bruce figure all of this out? Bruce explains that it was the pin that Lincoln said that his mother wore before he was an orphan. Well, that pin isn't really real, because that pin was Bruce's own mother's pin. She wore it when they did the painting that hung in Bruce Wayne's hall. So Lincoln's mother couldn't have had it. Lincoln March is nothing more than a front created by the Court of Owls to be placed in a position of political power. But Lincoln laughs. That pin does belong to his mother. That pin was given to mothers who placed their children in this orphanage. And his mother's name was Martha Wayne. Lincoln's real name is Thomas Wayne Jr., and he is Bruce Wayne's brother. He was born early, and the Waynes placed him in this orphanage to heal up. But Batman, he tells him that he's insane. The Court of Owls gave him that story, and it can't be true. His parents would never do that. The two men begin to fight it out, with Lincoln going on about how it's a story as old as time. Two brothers, one rich, one poor, and the rich one forgetting his kin. Batman appears to have the upper hand, but unlike the other Talon suits, Lincoln's can fly. And the two men continue to go at it, flying around Gotham City, as Lincoln explains why he is Thomas Wayne, what was expected of him from the Court of Owls. You see, when Bruce vanished to go train in the mountains all those years ago, the court raised and trained Lincoln March as Thomas Wayne Jr. to take the spotlight, to take over the family name and run the city for the court. But when Bruce returned, they created the persona of Lincoln March, and they set up the life that Lincoln ended up living now. They did this because of Bruce's return. The Wayne family had too much spotlight on it. Batman and Lincoln's fight takes them to the top of Wayne Tower, where Lincoln continues his evil villain monologue, while the entire tower begins to explode and be destroyed. With the building exploding around him, Batman manages to resist long enough to break Lincoln's mask and blind him temporarily so that he can get away from the entire tower. There was no body found, and Batman just went home to ponder everything that he had learned. Dick Grayson came by in the days that followed, and Bruce explained. First off, while many of the court's heads were killed either by themselves drinking poison or by Lincoln March tricking them, there were many more for Batman to find, and there's also a series of remaining Talons out there in the city. Also, there was another Wayne child. When Bruce was 3, there was a car accident, and the child that Martha Wayne was pregnant with was born prematurely. The child was expected to have brain damage and would remain in a vegetative state. After 12 hours, the child supposedly died in the hospital. But within hours of the child's death, a child was admitted to the Willowwood Orphanage, the one that Lincoln March grew up in. Martha Wayne was then documented as visiting the orphanage frequently, but there is a chance that her visits and the pin that she wore are both linked to the many charities that she funded. Bruce doesn't believe that his parents would have done something so heinous, but without Lincoln March's DNA, he can't be positive. Dick Grayson asks him if he'll be okay not knowing, and Bruce tells him that he'll solve this mystery eventually. But in the meantime, he's gonna rebuild Wayne Tower, bigger, taller, because Gotham isn't Batman. Gotham isn't the Owls. Gotham is everyone. And Dick Grayson simply chuckles. And it's a little Batman too. Come on. Alright guys, I'm sitting here with Stephen Frank, the writer and creator of the book Silver, which is a continuation of the Bram Stoker universe. If this is something you might be interested in, you can click the links down below to go to the full interview we did with him, or you can click to go to the trailer they have at YouTube, go to the website to learn more about it, and if you are interested in this, go to your local comic book store and request that they order Silver. It'll be coming out November 12th. So, Stephen, why don't you go ahead and let us know what your daily work routine is? Because I know quite a few people who are trying to break into comics, and they don't really know how to juggle the time properly. They end up wasting their time more watching Netflix or something all day. So,
yeah, no, that's a good point. Well, for me, it's interesting because I do comics, and I'm a director. I work in animation. I'm doing a movie for Sony Pictures right now, so I really have this very schizophrenic sort of work life, where I can be in production on a movie, and then I just go to the studio and I literally interact with hundreds of people, and my day is like meeting after meeting for like 12 hours, and it's all about communicating your vision and to other artists. Or I come I stay in my home office, and I stay in there for like 10 hours or whatever, and I just draw and draw and draw and draw. So it's like there's parts that are very solitary and parts that are very about human contact and communication, and I love both. I think what you said is really true, though, is that a lot of people say, oh, I love to do a book, also I love to do this, but and the truth is, at some point, it's like, Sunday night, it's 10 p.m. and the choice is there. Do I want to go and see The Walking Dead and, and go see a great show except it's somebody else's show, or do you want to finish the next page on your book? So at some point it just becomes a very personal choice.
Yeah, no, I run into the same thing with the YouTube videos. I can sit here and watch YouTube all night, or I can make one of my own. So
exactly.
I totally know where you're coming from with that. And if Silver is something you guys are interested in, just click the links down below, and it'll bring you right to something involving Silver. And I'll see you guys next time right here at Comicstorian.